So I'm feeling like really happy and really excited to be sharing this workshop tonight. And I want to just say love and blessings to everybody's here, some old faces, lots of new faces as well. And it's like so exciting for me when I start to talk and explain about this to people that I never knew before. And, when I think about all that was going on in my life before I found this, and when I found this, what I'm going to be talking about and how it's really like impacted and changed my life, it's like, I'm the same person, but I'm living in a completely different reality because I took control of things that were just messing up my life. And through this process of essentially, and this is what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be looking at energy drains through the process of finding these energy drains and then using systematic techniques to basically get them out of my system. I managed to get myself, my body on every level functioning in the way that is the correct way for me to be working. So it's a bit like getting a car and changing all the filters and putting new brakes in and so on, and then getting the car working properly. Now I'm going to be going today into like how this all works. Hopefully everything's working, my PowerPoint and everything. It'll be challenging for me if my PowerPoint has disappeared, but it will be good as well. Challenges are always good. So yeah, okay, let's go. I have the PowerPoint here. Yes. Okay. Amazing. So here we've got the Orgasmic Upgrade, and I know that everybody thinks like, or most people think, orgasm is like some porno thing, or people have an idea about orgasm and sexual energy, that it's something that's supposed to be put in this box, locked away from the rest of our lives, and that this is the best place for it because it's only really going to cause harm if it builds up too much. Well, ancient people did not think that, and it seems to be they in many ways had a lot more functional societies than we do. So let's have a look at this. And first of all, I want to say to you, congratulations for choosing to become the ultimate version of yourself. There's nothing that excites me more than just seeing people like absolutely becoming themselves in the fullest form. One of the things that irks me and bugs me so much about what the education system does to us is it says to us, what are we going to be when we grow up? And everything we're supposed to be is like trying not to be me, right? I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be like this and that. Yeah, but everything is about taking parts of ourselves, suppressing those parts of ourselves, crushing those parts of ourselves, and making ourselves into someone that isn't us. And this person that isn't us, it could be like a really, really nice person. This is the ego, but the ego normally is a very, very nice person. People think of ego as, being this monster or whatever, but reality is ego is usually like a people pleaser who's trying to conform and appear like a nice person to everyone, right? The thing is, this is all great, it's all fantastic, except one of the things is, we're not being authentic. We're not allowed to be ourselves. We're not being ourselves. And when we're not being ourselves, our gifts and our talents and our creativity is being subdued and it's being crushed. I mean, if you look more deeply into this, you'll also see that this living in the ego of pretending to be someone we're not essentially leaves us with health, all kinds of health problems, physical problems, mental problems, so on and so forth, low energy levels, addictions. These are all tying in together with the fact we're not living in our authentic self. So congratulations also for choosing to have a vision to rise upwards, to create and to make a beautiful life, not just for yourself, but those around you. So you're here with me for around an hour tonight. And I very much am here to be part of this journey for you, to activate you and to show you something that I couldn't believe when I found it was possible. So Congratulations for taking the first tiny step on this journey of 1,000 miles to find your destiny and manifest beauty along your path. And congratulations for choosing to become a higher version of yourself in a world where, now more than ever, the world needs people like you who are deeply committed to self-development to create an ethical and prosperous future for humanity. And for choosing to face your fears and rise above your past and your traumas and show up for yourself and for those around you by stepping into your power. And we're going to be talking about energy drains. And of course, you know, our fears, our traumas, our emotions, negative emotions, which are emotions we're not taught how to deal with. These things all become like massive mega energy drains, and they stop us from actually being able to really, really shine out into the world and to be who we authentically are, which is what the world needs. Lots of really true, authentic people, crazily, madly, deeply in love with themselves, which we're going to look at a bit later. So the time is now to do this, right? And I know how scary it is to step up and into your power, that most people cower in fear and embrace smallness because it seems easier. And yeah, I can tell you, when we stand up, yeah, we can face criticism, we can be attacked on all kinds of different levels. But the thing is, I would never, ever change that for living in smallness again, because the rewards we get out of this are so much more than anything anyone can do to try to hurt us. And yet the end result of this kind of a world where most people are sitting around scared to be anything beautiful and fantastic, you know, the end result is that the power is left in the hands of corrupt politicians and billionaires. So instead of it being spread out around, and the wealth and the productivity and creativity being spread around, everything's kind of being left to these, you know, corrupt people who are in charge, while most people are sitting there going, oh, I'm too scared to kind of make any money, because if I'm making money, then I'm going to kind of become one of them, which in reality is not really going to happen, right? You know, and these people are exploiting the planet and us instead of creating the beautiful possibilities that humans are capable of. And I really believe like a good economy, when the economy is running well, is made up of a lot of small businesses, right? You know, a bunch of billionaires is not a good economy. You know, the more that people are in there creating their businesses and shining and showing their beautiful selves, the better off the world is going to be. And because the majority are not in their power, rather than seeing innovative technologies and the earth being honored, we see wars, pollution, and corruption, bringing humanity close to the brink of extinction. And this is inevitable with the system we have, which is kind of, it basically leaves the 1%, as they say, who are probably like majority with kind of quite high on the sociopathic stroke psychopathic spectrum, to come into a position of power, while everyone else is sitting around being too scared to actually stand up and be themselves. But most importantly, the years we spend without the knowledge of our power and tools to use it, meaning we are going through life on a tiny percentage of what we are capable of, are years that could have shone far more brightly for you. So let's look at thriving instead of surviving. What I came to learn is the huge advantage of learning to understand the nature of your reality and knowing how to use it. What I mean is that most people have no awareness of how the energy field works and can be understood scientifically to understand and harness energies that you need to make your life better. So we might read books, we might educate ourselves, we might work out at the gym, but you know, a lot of people have a vague understanding that energy exists, but this is actually a scientific system where we can go in and we can actually learn, like on very, very detailed, intricate ways, how to work with these different energies to get the body working exactly at its most optimum level. So the key to thriving is learning how to apply and to implement these energy techniques, which mean that you can let go of the energy drains that have stopped you from being who you really are. And it takes a radical sense of self-responsibility to know how to navigate growth. I myself know how scary it is, but I would not change it for the world. And this is really about, you know, on the one hand, there's major advantages to it. Yeah. One of the advantages, and there's people here I can see that are doing it. If you want to type in the chat, any of you guys, to talk about what it's like to bring this stuff into your life here. Number one, yeah, it's fun. It's all about fun, and it's all about feeling really, really good. It's about being playful. It's about connecting with a childlike sense of fun and innocence while doing something like really, really super, super high level, yeah, which I think is just incredible, you know. But obviously, it requires taking a certain step and creating a certain amount of self-discipline. It's not huge amounts of self-discipline, but without making that initial choice, which obviously all you who are watching via Facebook and also who've come here today and who are watching the replays as well. So I want to send love out to those watching the replay as well as those in Facebook. You know, you're all taking a step to do something, and this is the first step. And now it's to you to see where this goes, right? So my vision for you, and I create these free events because I really, really believe in this stuff. This stuff absolutely transformed my life. I was absolutely, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I was stuck in this cycle of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, going to see psychologists, not going anywhere in my life, just suffering so badly, really, really creative with all these ideas. I was quite an extreme case. And I found this stuff, and within months, my life was completely transformed. And this, I see the same thing happening with my clients as well today. So the vision that I'm holding for you who've come here and who are watching this is that I will be laying out over the next 3 days the results of the blueprint that I use to work with my clients that has given them results in every area of life that both them and I still find astounding. So a lot of people think, you know, sex coaching or sex is just about sex. This affects and impacts every aspect of our lives in ways we can't believe sometimes, you know, except that it's crazy that it's true, you know. This vision is of you stepping into the future where you are doing the deep work that you really need to do in order to create the life, excuse me, that you dream of, which is your destiny. And it's yours, it's uniquely yours. It's not you living someone else's life. And one thing that I found was that when I activated this energy within myself, what was my destiny became very, very clear to me. And the tools I needed to walk it, which had just not been available to me, suddenly became available. So I see you unleashing your power, your potential and possibilities instead of fearing growth. And we all know that nothing is more painful than feeling powerless to address those physical and mental or even energetic drains that seem to destroy your life. It is incredible how easily these can be eliminated from your life. So just to give a few examples of the way, you know, things I've seen happen with clients is like, I'm hoping you guys have all checked out my testimonial pages. But I had a client that had about 20 years of porn addiction, could hardly even speak to a woman who, and by the way, I never tell people to give up any of their addictions ever. All I tell people to do is work with your energy. As you work with your energy, you'll lose interest in this. One guy, he literally had just lost all interest in porn after 2 weeks. 3 weeks later was dating women. Another that had such severe anxiety, he could hardly go out of the house. In 4 weeks, he was turning, he was completely free of the anxiety, and he was turning his hobby into a business that was actually making more money than he was making out of his normal work. So it's really powerful and incredible what this stuff can do to you, and it gives us what we need. You know, another client, for example, he'd done all this spiritual work but ended up in this relationship with his wife and mother of his child where they were hardly ever having sex, and they were just passive aggressive, moody at each other all the time. Through working, you know, after about a month of working together, I got a message, or maybe 6 weeks, I got a message from him saying, wow, we've had like more sex in the last month than we had, you know, in 2 years. And basically all this moodiness we had with each other is just gone because they reconnected back in that loving way. And interestingly enough, her business absolutely took off through him working with me. And it's, yeah, I just find all of these fascinating. There's so many stories. I definitely recommend check out my testimonials, right? Now let's look at healing and growth, because both of these are really important. And if you are here, I bet you've probably gone off and had therapies, right? You know, acupuncture, all different kinds of therapies. I love therapies, right? Okay. But there's also this step, and I will tell you, I had tried so many different therapies for my problems. and nothing worked nothing worked, let's say, in a long-term way to really shift my issues until I actually learned to work with my own energy. So healing without a shift in growth will not bring change. We need to make this effort towards growing, challenging ourselves, moving out of our comfort zone. In order to really break through, to identify and to know, there must be a story of growth and self-development, of learning to master your own world instead of begging and pleading for others to make our lives tolerable. I've definitely been there. Before a breakthrough, it is essential to be aware of patterns and the cost of the way that we are living our lives and doing nothing, So I'll often, hear people say things like, even hear people say crazy things like, I can't spend £10 on myself, or I can't spend £100 on myself, or, even when we talk about spending like 5,000, 10,000 on ourselves, when we look at the results, I have to say, some of the biggest transformative experiences have come when I stepped into that zone and was like, oh, and invested a big chunk of money into something that it wasn't just the transformation that process brought me, but it was actually the fact that I had stepped out of my comfort zone, put that money in there. And what started to manifest out of that as a I would say, like an act of alchemy, is like an incredibly powerful, amazing thing to do. So when you rise into your power, you can check the issues and the old story and give voice to your deeper truth. And, we go along on these old stories, and we all do it, and it's okay. It's fine. None of this is wrong. This is all a process. This is all what we are doing. However, when we go around the same patterns again and again and again, what's really the depth of our experience on the soul level is not coming out to grow, and it's not coming into fruition in our lives. The cycle of winning is understanding that it's safe to move out of your comfort zone, because that is where you need to go in order to progress. And this thing of the comfort zone, and of course we need comfort. Yes, some amount of the time we need comfort. If we don't have any comfort, of course it gets traumatic. And I'm all for comfort. But when we get stuck in this comfort zone, and I didn't know any other way when I was younger, and I was identifying with this complex post-traumatic stress disorder and other things that I was doing. For example, I was relying on cannabis in order to sleep. I could not sleep without cannabis. And I was seeing this as a kind of a medicine, or I was self-medicating with it, when in fact it was the worst enemy, that I was having. So just checking here what I'm seeing. So education in the West is really indoctrination into society. So we're going to be talking about that, absolutely, because essentially what we're talking about here is going back into our original programming. So be the ultimate you. You can work on your body, you can educate your mind, but unless you also understand the energy field and how to work with it, you are at a huge disadvantage. Now, funny enough, you often hear people saying, oh, these Freemasons, these business people, these bankers, so on and so forth. And yeah, I totally accept. I know Freemasons, right? And I know what they do, and they work with energy, right? And there's this top section of people on society, and they are working with energy. Even the fact that Charles's coronation came between two eclipses, is this just coincidence? Of course not. These people know, people that get into the positions of power, they know about all these different kinds of energy work. And most of us, we're kind of taught, oh, this is witchcraft, don't believe in it. Well, it's real. I can tell you it's real. So, ancient science of energy. In ancient times, cultures across the world studied and understood about energy. This is what has more recently, in the last 1,000 years, has been called witchcraft, and it fell out of favor with the rise of the church, which has happened over the last 1,000 years. Please, my dears, can I ask you, make sure you're muted. Nobody wants to hear you making noises in the background, and God knows what else you're going to start doing, but just keep it to yourself, okay? So rather than being a sinister force, this is a powerful force that can be channeled for good and used to heal your body, to create and manifest a beautiful life, and to expand and activate higher consciousness and reach spiritual enlightenment as one holistic, orgasm-fueled journey. But it's not what you may think of as an orgasm. And I just want to say, look, we are constantly practicing magic. Every word we say, you know, the words are called spelling because we're casting a spell. And when it comes to so many other things, like, for example, if we look at like the use of pornography, and if you want to look up the word scrying online, and you think like, what are you doing if you're, for example, you're watching pornography? You're literally like having your energy siphoned off. You're really, really keeping yourself stuck. If you're continuously, habitually watching pornography and masturbating, and whether you're ejaculating or not, but ejaculation makes it worse. This is not that images of people having sex are wrong. It is not that people having sex is wrong. It's all about understanding. You know, a McDonald's burger may give you a stomachache and give you a heart attack. You know, an organic burger with a whatever organic meal will nourish you. And this is what we want to do. We want to find a way to be nourished by our sexual energy instead of drained by it. So what I am saying here is that the paradigm of the last millennia, that sexuality is inherently harmful and needs to be controlled to stop it from hurting people, is completely wrong. For thousands of years, cultures across the world embraced sexuality as a life-giving and sacred force that was at the center of spiritual practices. And really, can we say there's anything more sacred than two people in love coming together and making love? I mean, this is why we have social norms about infidelity, social norms around sexuality, but they've got twisted and perverted to become something that's repressing the sexuality and separating us from what is the sacredness of our sexuality, which is the reason why we have sex crimes, sex addiction, sex problems, sexual dysfunctions, and so on and so forth. Is we aren't connected with what this sacred force actually is. And I do believe it even spreads out so much further, you know, into every aspect of our life, that we're not connected in with this sacred force that gave us life. It is a powerful force that is connected closely with the practice of magic that existed across the world. And we're going to talk about this in future days, but essentially, orgasmic energy is an amplifier. It amplifies everything. And that's why we're going to look today at energy drains. And we're going to look at how can we basically take these energy drains out, so that when we raise up the orgasmic energy, we're not amplifying things we don't want to amplify. So Taoism has created the most precise sexology that explains exactly how you can go about using this energy to enhance yourself into the ultimate version of you. So, who am I? So my name is Jade Lotus, and I've studied and practiced Taoist sexual alchemy for over a decade. Through this practice, I managed to blow the lid off of my anorgasmia and simultaneously cure chronic health problems, addictions, and start manifesting creativity and abundance. And I was having a bit of a laugh about this the other day because, you know, I had all these different problems: my chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, back pain, insomnia, you name it. Yeah, you know, I had all of these problems, right? And I tried to address one with acupuncture, another with Bowen technique, another with psychotherapy, do you know what I mean? And everything. I got so sick of it. In the end, I was like, okay, you know what? I've never had an orgasm, and actually I'm sick of this. I want to have an orgasm, right? You know, so I got really, really selfish, and I basically decided to go for this thing that everybody would just say was so superfluous, superficial, egotistical, selfish of me to want this orgasm, right? And by the way, I tried talking to the doctor about the problem, been dismissed, almost treated like I was doing something wrong. You know, by talking about this, I hadn't found any solution. And when I went to start to work with my energy using these Taoist techniques, and I managed to hack into my energy field, unblock all these problems, get rid of my insomnia, get rid of the chronic back pain. I remember I was having like colds every other month. I was just urinary tract infections. God, it was just one thing to another. Everything I was trying to create, it was just not coming into fruition. I was addicted to cannabis. I tried to stop, and I really didn't like the fact I was addicted to it. Sure, I was creating all these excuses as any addict does. However, I was also, I couldn't get out of the cycle because the insomnia, the fear, the traumas I'd experienced, so on and so forth, everything I was suffering with, because I hadn't resolved it, this addiction was not going away. Whereas when I started these practices, not only did I get rid of the addiction, meaning that I lost all desire for it. That's it. I don't want it anymore. And I never wanted it once I started it. Just lost all interest in it. I also, the back pain, which every day it was like wiping me out, gone, you know. And then suddenly, well, all I had wanted was one orgasm, but suddenly multiple orgasms, you know, and just a complete, like a different body, like almost, you know, obviously I was the same person, but what had happened was I'd been so blocked up with all this old energy before, and once it had gone and disappeared, I actually became me. And that was just the greatest, amazing gift, you know. And in this, in my authentic self, I then could see my destiny and see where I was going. So I studied with the Taoist Grandmaster Mantak Chia, I should say there, as well as like plenty of other of his instructors and other teachers who are not within the healing Tao system. I learned to practice and teach the ancient Taoist art of sexual transmutation. So I'm a certified instructor with Master Chia, as well as that I'm also a certified Tantra educator, and I've helped thousands of people to get in touch with their sexuality. So that's thousands of people I've actually worked with. There's like tens of thousands that have found me on social media and even messaged me to tell me like how I've changed their lives, yeah, which is amazing, because that's what this is all about. It's all about changing people's lives and seeing people step into their powers in hopefully big ways. So here's me with one of the many pictures I have with Master Chia, the Taoist Grand Master. And okay, this is nature. We are created by orgasm, and as demonstrated in Chinese meridian theory, we're going to go into this tomorrow. Orgasmic energy is the source energy from our perineum that naturally rises up into our meridian system and transforms to feed our glands, our cells, and our organs. The Taoists call this a superfood for the soul, as it's a versatile, multi-purpose energy that can be transformed into anything. It naturally would keep us healthy as well as inspired and enlightened. It effectively rises through our body and transforms, more on this tomorrow, into love, and finally activates our pineal gland into a higher state of consciousness. Everything in our bodies is capable of working perfectly because our bodies are perfect alchemical chambers. And I just want to check here, if you do not have your, because I hope you all have a copy of my genital reflexology worksheet, because you can get it for free. If you don't have it, I can send it to you for free. And I just want to check as well that I'm giving rewards out to everybody who has joined here today. By the way, I just want to stick in the chat here hopefully you should have received an email giving you the details of how to enter my giveaway. I'm just putting here the email. If you don't have the email, yeah, so somebody there was complaining about the noise. Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay. So I just want to do something here with my, I want to get rid of the background noise as well. So, okay. All right. So, oh yeah, sorry, those were probably the dogs here. I live in rural Portugal. There's dogs, there's wild dogs, there's neighbor dogs, there's my dogs, there's everything. Yeah, so sorry about that, but I've now muted and turned down the sound, so they shouldn't. That was because I had turned it up, so the background noise should now be gone. So make sure you get hold of that email address and drop me an email. So We are originally created in innocence, as in the characters from the Garden of Eden who live with nature and their own bodies in harmony. So this can be seen as like tribal people who still exist to this day in the world. Not so many, but it's actually something I'm really, really passionate about protecting, is people who are living like traditional ways of life, that they are protected and allowed to live like that rather than being pulled into modern society if they don't want to do that, especially. So there's a lot that we can learn from these people, and it's definitely something like I've looked into, read about, watched documentaries about, and so on, about this simple way of life. And you probably know about people living in tribes just running around naked, and actually in these tribes they don't have things like sexual harassment, sexual assault, sexism. In fact, most of these cultures will not even exist, will not even be aware of like masturbation, right? Okay. Because why do people masturbate? Of course, we touch our genitals. That's natural and normal. To grab your penis and jerk it like this is not natural and normal. And why are you doing it? You're doing it because your energy is blocked. There are ancient techniques to massage your penis, right? Which is a completely different thing. Let me know if you want to know more about those. However you found me here, but these ancient techniques to massage your penis is with a very, very different type of touch, and it will keep your erection strong and healthy into your 70s, 80s, and 90s, whereas doing this will quickly leave you with erectile dysfunction because it's damaging to the cells, the tissues, but it's also going to remove or reduce your ability to experience pleasure like within your whole body. So when society became civilized and people started to educate themselves, be literate, and create systems of morality, we lost touch with our original programming, which used to guide humans through life. Because ultimately, we know right and wrong, and we also know danger. In fact, the more that people are told so-and-so is dangerous, don't do this, the more people are likely to actually end up in dangerous situations. The same as the more we talk to people about morality, the more they're likely to do things that may harm other people. So while we became sophisticated, our health suffered because our energy systems became blocked, and we started to battle ourselves because this belief that we as humans are intrinsically evil, that the flesh is sinful, all these kind of things took over, whereas in reality, all we need to do is be in balance and everything's perfect, and we're these gorgeous, beautiful, creative beings, and that is what this is all about. We get blocked by unprocessed emotions and beliefs that program us away from nature and our original programming. So, for example, in traditional cultures, people are generally develop a healthy relationship, let's say, with their emotions, including negative emotions. We're just taught, repress them, push them down, get rid of them, right? And what happens? We can't deal with them. And there's a lot of mental illness and other problems because people can't deal with their emotions. So I now want to start looking into energy drains. And this is what our exercise today is going to be all about. I know the dogs are barking again. I hope that people can't hear it and aren't getting bothered by it. So what are energy drains? An energy drain is anything that stops us from reaching our potential. We all have them. We can call them thoughts, beliefs, and programs that limit us, often without us being aware. Often they show up as unwanted emotions, addictions, and urges that make us feel bad. And I find the whole one of like sex addiction, stroke, porn addiction, is really, really interesting one because you know, how can this be addictive, right? How can something like, you know, food addiction is another one, right? These things that are like part of our staple of life, how do they become addictive? They become addictive because when our body is so blocked up with emotions that don't belong to us, we then start to try to find ways to get those emotions out, okay? Masturbation, stroke, sex, yeah, can be a way to temporarily relieve, but again and again, the problem is going to keep coming up, and it can show up as pain inside of the body, emotional issues, it can show up as financial problems. It's very, very common that when the sexual energy is blocked, you also have like financial problems as well. Okay, so initially these problems will show up in the energy realm, but then they'll manifest into physical as low energy levels, dis-ease, and so on and so forth. So they often take on a life of their own as we start to identify with them, whether this be identifying as having a certain learning disability or illness or other thing. We then are holding onto these energies and they become part of our personality, right? You know, I used to do this thing. I'm dyslexic. I can't, whatever. I have ADHD. I can't, blah, 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 blah. You know, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I can't. These are all labels that are describing energy blockages. And while we're holding on to these labels and we're holding on to these identities, this is a massive energy block. I mean, just recently I was talking to a client and I was explaining to him, you know, stop identifying with all these different things and just let them go, because when we're doing the exercises to get them out of your body, you're actually holding on to this identity that you must feel bad, and you need to let that all go and move on, you know? And obviously just saying that to someone without giving them techniques could be a rather insensitive thing to do. But when someone has got to the point where they're actually getting these techniques to be able to move the energies that don't belong to them out of their body, it's a completely different situation. And obviously with this client, we've been through a lot of talking about what was his, you know, his pain points and so on. And now he's in the place where he's really being able to shift and move things out once he realized he was holding on to this stuff that just didn't belong to him anymore. And I suppose right here, I'm going to say another thing I love about this is the fact that we can just, we don't need to go into the story to get these things out of our body. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. We don't need to remember it. We don't need to regurgitate it going over and over it again. We can go in weeks and we can just cut it out of our system. It's really amazing. So these energy drains can then start to influence how to behave in ways that will support its existence. Thus, you have lost your autonomy. And I'm going to give an example I did, which was that I had this whole identity around using cannabis and needing it to cope with my insomnia and CPTSD and so on and so forth. And basically, it's almost like the whole cannabis thing like took on a life of its own that was influencing me and making me freak out if I went somewhere and I didn't have it, because I won't be able to sleep, and then I'm going to have nightmares and I'm going to have flashbacks and so on and so forth. In the end, it was just a delusion. So let's have a look at the exercise I have for everybody today. So thinking about what is slowing you down in your life. This can include low energy levels, disease, thoughts and feelings that stop you from reaching your potential. So urges is a good one, things we keep getting drawn to that don't belong to us, right? So make a short list for yourself. 5 things that you want to get out of your energy field that will result in you being free to be you, to excel, and to prosper. Often they are subtle, and I find many people can be in denial of things that to me are glaringly obvious, right? It's like we have these blind spots. I literally have friends that I talk to that, you know, I ask them to basically illustrate my blind spot for me, you know, to shine a light on my blind spot, because we all have these blind spots. And if we go through life without seeing them and without having them illuminated, we are going to not really get anywhere. So this is because our culture is based on repression, and repression is based on shaming and denial. So start to make this list of 5. Okay, I just want to share you something really quickly that we have here. Just want to give an example. Of course, you can listen to me. I definitely suggest to check out my testimonials. I have a whole page of them. They're all over my social media as well. Ask me if you want to know more. And I would like as well to invite you on a 15-minute free of charge consultation, which you can apply for. My assistant will just now put into the chat the details of how you can book this. And of course, I want to remind you to make sure to enter my giveaway as well. Just give me a moment. Okay, a few more examples of the 5 things to do in these exercises. So it could be like, I keep feeling angry at my dad. I can't get through a day without, you know, someone just put here, constantly scrolling on the phone, low energy, scrolling addiction, blurry, exhaustion. Someone's just put that there. You can put them in the chat, but I do just recommend put it onto a piece of paper so you've still got it tomorrow. But yeah, it could be like addictions, urges. Like, what, for example, what if you're constantly feeling attracted to women, but you know you shouldn't go there, you know? Or you're constantly attracted to someone, you know, you're constantly needing to repress your sexual energy. That is a massive one. What I'm looking for here is taking a little while to come up. Yeah, constantly needing to repress the sexual energy is a really, really big one. And that can really really mess us up. Another thing, repressing anger is a huge one, right? That's the thing I find causes big amounts of problems with my clients. Repressed anger, so people trying to be spiritual, trying to be like good people, trying to do the right thing. We can really, you see, because in the Tao we say that the Tao, you know, we don't want to actually be trying to be moral. We want to get into a flow with nature and energy where we do the right things. So yeah, when we're trying to be a good person, you know, when we are scared and shy to speak to people, when we are yeah, just does that help? Is that giving a better idea? So I want to just share just now this here. So hopefully this is going to come on. Oh, my internet is not as fast as I had hoped. Oh, I think that it's because the Zoom, it's taking so much of the space. So let's go back for now to the PowerPoint and just give that a moment to load up. So let's look at tough loving ourselves, right? Because we hear loads about love, self-love, but sometimes we need to tough love ourselves as well as giving ourselves love. You know, now one of the biggest drains of energy is a lack of self-love, and we're indoctrinated not to love ourselves, right? This is the whole thing about being scared, about being big and standing up and so on and so forth. Most people are taught so deeply to hate themselves. And you see people, you know, they're trying to show self-love, and what do? They get, you know, injections in their lips or different kinds of surgeries or fake fingernails, and it's all so superficial. I mean, I saw a woman on YouTube, somehow this woman came up and she's going, I spent $20,000 on plastic surgery on myself and I still haven't got a man. And you're just like, oh my God, yeah, like, you know, but it's crazy. Like, that's an extreme example, but it shows so many things we can do that seem to be loving ourselves, but really the investment in ourselves is what's really important. So One of the biggest drains is lack of self-love. And by this, I mean the programming not to prioritize ourselves and give ourselves what we really need to become exceptional. The world is full of mediocre people because people are too afraid to stand up and shine in their brilliance. We are taught it's selfish to prioritize self, but in reality, when we put ourselves last, everyone suffers. And as Taoists, we get a reputation that we love ourselves, right? You know, some people get bothered that we really, really love ourselves so much, yeah. But the thing is that we believe that the best world is made up of loads of individuals that are absolutely in love with themselves. And I take my clients through this journey of really full, crazy, madly, deeply in love with yourself. And this is about going into your body, finding out who you are, the same way you would meet a beloved, want to get to know them, want to like really, really fall in love with them, want to really just know and be aware of like who they are. And we do the same with ourselves. And we also actually learn how do we use this amazing body, because our body is more high tech than any spaceship, anything NASA created. Yet most people are driving the bodies around like they are a golf cart. Now, I grew up in a home where self-love was practically considered a sin. I was constantly taught to give, and the result was I was falling to pieces. This played in with the fact that I was traumatized by a mother wound. I did not have a good example of taking care of myself. And I spent years trying psychology, but to little avail. I was stuck in a cycle of trauma and pain that debilitated me. And I'm going more into this tomorrow, how this all works. So I've always been ambitious, and I thank that drive and my vision for pulling me out of the doldrums and taking me into a real life that I can enjoy. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at what are these Taoist practices that we can use to actually start transforming this energy. And that's what I want your list for. Okay, so make sure you've written your list, you kept it there, and we're going to start working on some of these energies tomorrow. So let's just go over the main points, and I want to invite any questions, either put direct to me, put into the chat, or of course you can speak when I finish speaking, and you can actually verbally ask me if you wish as well. So orgasmic energy is the life force that you were created from. And ancient people connected it closely with spirituality and divinity and saw it as a superfood for the soul that is essential for healthy living. Modern culture teaches us the opposite, and the result is plenty of sickness, mental unwellness, addictions, and lack of creativity. Although we are programmed not to have access to this natural source of power, even though to most people it's difficult to comprehend what this is, we still have access to ancient techniques that allow us to tap into that whilst retaining the knowledge of modern society. So it's like having the best of both worlds, but being able to go back into this, you know, ancient manifestation of the human spirit as a balanced being in a balanced body, whilst having all the advantages that we have today. So the key to accessing this, first and foremost, is to identify energy blockages and remove them so that the source energy can flow. And tomorrow we're going to be looking at and going into how do we actually start removing these energy blocks. Really, really interesting how fast and effective these techniques actually are. So I would like to open up now and offer for the beautiful people I know and those I don't know equally. In fact, I'd like to give priority to those I don't know to ask any questions, pop any questions in the chat. And yeah, let's start off with a few, and then I'm going to stop the recording and disconnect from Facebook. And yeah, and I want to just make sure everybody has got my genital reflexology worksheet, because it's going to be really important for tomorrow. So if you don't have it, I want to invite that you message me either on Instagram or Facebook so I can get you your copy of that, because it's going to be really important for tomorrow. Yeah, okay, I'm not seeing any questions coming up. I'm now going to end the live stream. Bye-bye, everyone on Facebook. Okay, we're getting some privacy now.